Company featured. Welcome to this Stockbox interview. Ben Turney, the CEO of Kavango Resources, is joining us today on Stockbox for another special feature update from their KSZ project. Now, the last time we spoke, Ben, was about the end of September, and the drills were just about to start going at target area B, and I know you're fairly a fair way through that now. But of course, really what we're going to focus on today is the RNS that came out on Friday, which is about the Downhole EM, which is a very interesting concept that's going on here. So welcome to Stockbox, first of all. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Very good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Good. No, it's good to be catching up with you again, Ben. So, how are things going then? I know when we last spoke, we talked about the Downhole EM, and it wasn't quite what you expected. I don't think you quite got the response or the results you were hoping for.
Yeah, so look, it's difficult. When drilling, obviously, in a new area, your biggest priority is to make sure that your hole stays open so you can get to the bottom to get the drill core. We need the drill core because we need that physical evidence of the rocks to tell us, what is down there, what is underneath the surface. We can model all we like from the surface, airborne surveys, ground surveys, soil geochem, whatever it is. But until you've actually gone and drilled and you know what the actual underlying geology is, a lot of that is basically educated guesswork. If this game were easy, there'd be a lot more companies doing it, and obviously it'd be much easier to find major metal deposits. So this is quite complicated science with a lot of different variables, but the ultimate arbiter is, of course, the drill bit. So on the first hole, which you can see on the right here, what we're looking at on this image, which we put out on our Twitter feed in conjunction with the RNS on Friday, what we're looking at here are the downhole EM responses that we've got from the two holes we drilled. Now, the hole on the right, as you can see, as we announced, we didn't really get much of a conductive reading from the hole. We also didn't target the Proterozoic because this hole wouldn't have gone into the Proterozoic according to the airborne surveys that have been flown and the data that we've interpreted. Now, one of the big challenges that we found with this area is that on the first hole, we had to case down to about 393 meters. So what that meant is you use steel casing, which you leave in the hole and you hopefully can retrieve later. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to. But that steel casing acts effectively as a pipe to enable the drill rods to continue down and safely continue drilling the hole. The problem that we had was that because the ground was very loose, we went through a number of different formations that were looser. The drill rods, the vibrations of the drill rods within the hole meant that they were causing the hole to expand in different areas, because the drill rods were effectively knocking into this loose ground, which meant that the holes were at risk of collapsing. And obviously, if that had happened, or if we'd lost the drill rods down the holes, a number of different things could have happened, which meant we couldn't get to our target depth. Now, unfortunately, on the first hole, what that meant was because the steel casing went down to below the A conductor that we were targeting, it meant we couldn't do downhole EM because steel acts as effectively as a block to the probe signal that's being sent out from the hole in all directions in a sort of circular reading that's taken, and you basically can't take a reading through steel. Steel is obviously metallic. So that meant we could only do downhole EM from below 393, and as you can see, we didn't really pick up much of interest at this stage, but then nor did we really expect to. We did the downhole EM simply because you never know with these things, but as you can see here quite clearly, we picked up a very, very small reading, but nothing of interest at this stage. So obviously that leaves us with a bit of a challenge moving forward on the first hole. We'd like to identify exactly what the conductor is. We've obviously done visual inspection of the cores. We did hit some Karoo gabbros at that level that had been through coal formations, but at this stage it's still too early to say exactly what the A conductor is. But what then happened on the second hole, where things got much more interesting for us, was we got down to our target depth. We've also had to case this hole as well. Again, ground conditions not too dissimilar. These two holes are 1 kilometre apart. But on this second hole, we knew that there was a huge magnetic body underneath the surface. Now, this is different to the TDEM data that we collected. The TDEM data was looking for conductors, but the regional airborne surveys that had been flown, the magnetic surveys, they looked for magnetic bodies, and we knew that there was a very large magnetic body underneath the ground. Now, when we got to target depth at around about 570 meters on this hole, we still hadn't encountered the source of the magnetic. So we took the decision to push on into the Proterozoic. Now, the Proterozoic we haven't talked too much about in the past. It's always been a secondary target for us, but the consensus was out there that the Proterozoic was too deep to be a viable exploration target. Not so much because of the potential economics for mines, because mines or underground mines, particularly with major nickel bodies and major copper bodies, they can go much deeper than the depths that we're talking about at the moment, or we're looking at the moment. The main problem really is being able to use surveying equipment from surface to identify conductive bodies. So this is why doing downhole EM is so important to us. Once you've drilled a hole, you want to try and extract as much data as you can out of that hole for what might be in the surrounding area. Now, to give you an idea, downhole EM that we're using, it's got a radius of around about 300 meters. So if you imagine that this is a 1 kilometer deep hole, and we can then effectively explore in a 300 meter radius around that. That obviously opens up quite a lot of potential for us to take readings or look for potential conductors in areas where we've got evidence that there's gabbro. And in this instance, obviously the evidence we have are those wonderful looking, well, I've got to be a bit careful there, but they're very interesting looking, let's say, core samples that we've extracted from the Proterozoic that have given us a very clear idea of what the underlying geology is. Now, on this second hole, we drilled obviously down to 1,000 meters. We were within 1 degree of accuracy. But one of the constraints that we've had is that the winch that we've used, or that Spectral used, went down to 780 meters. So the first downhole EM survey they were able to conduct didn't reach the bottom of the hole. But what's very, very interesting is if you see here this circular reading that we have. This is from 760 meters down to the bottom of the survey at 780. And what we feel we've identified, what we clearly can see, is that we found what looks like the upper edge of a conductive body that resides within the Proterozoic. So it's still a bit early for us to get too excited about this. It's still a lead at this stage, but we're going to follow up with a deeper downhole EM survey. Spectral's managed to secure a winch that goes down to 1,500 meters. So once we finish drilling on target area B, which is where we're currently at the moment, we're going to do downhole EM there down to the hole's target depth of 1,000 meters, and then deploy the new winch to this hole, the second hole that we've drilled, to complete the survey down to 1,000 meters. And at that point, what we're looking for is to gather a lot more data that would enable us to define this target much better.
It's a very interesting stage you're at, isn't it? There's a lot of data gathering going on, and I guess pieces of puzzle coming together. Are those discs, we see them there, an electromagnetic anomaly then?
Yeah, so the upper discs, we didn't report the upper discs because we certainly will look into those, but the strength of the signal it received, I mean, on this map, on this image, it can look like they're quite big, but we're expecting to see a much larger disc here when we take the deeper survey. So these are all the EM readings, the electromagnetic readings. We're in the process of mapping the EM against our core logs. So our guys in the field have obviously using visual inspection. They've inspected the core. We can see the different zones that we've encountered. We encountered sulfides within the hole. We've encountered quite clear zones of alteration throughout the hole as well. And we're certainly mapping that against what we're looking at here. And at this stage, I mean, this is ongoing work, and we'll update on that as soon as that work's been completed.
Mm-hmm. So it's almost as well, does it help you? Of course, it all helps to build a picture, but looking at that then, let's say the drill, for example, perhaps misses the ore body. Will this downhole EM help you to establish, actually, it is there, you've just perhaps not drilled straight through the middle of it?
Well, we couldn't say it's definitively there because, I mean, again, this is geophysical data that we're gathering. We are a data-driven company. I mean, you just say, there's a lot of data that we're pulling together. It's effectively a very complex puzzle that we're trying to create. But what it would provide us with would be a future drill target, we expect. Yeah. We probably would have to still drill quite a deep target. But again, until we've finished the current drill campaign, we've done full data analysis of everything that we've uncovered, both physical geology and, of course, the geophysical work that we're doing. And then that will take us into the next phase of exploration, which we'll then look to conduct early next year. Okay.
And is downhole EM, is it a new concept, or is it got a long history?
It's got a really reasonably long history. I mean, it's been around now for a number of decades. Obviously, there have been a lot of advances recently in terms of the power of the probes that can be put down these holes. So the range has expanded, and also so has the accuracy as well. So what we're now looking for is we obviously want to define both the position and the shape of this conductive body, but ideally what we're also hoping to do is to find out its conductance as well. And if all of those variables stack up, and it does look like this could be potentially an ore body, then obviously that will become a major exploration target for us.
Okay. And the plan then here is, once you finish drilling at target area B, is to get that longer winch, that 1,500 meter winch, over to this hole here, target area A, and effectively go down deeper.
Exactly. Yeah. So what we've done, you can see, well, you can't actually see on this image, but I can highlight with my cursor. So we cased down, I think it's to about 580 meters in the end, just to make sure that the hole remained secured. That was with what's called HQ casing. We then ran what's called BQ casing, which has a much smaller diameter, all the way to the bottom. So we've left BQ casing down to 1,000 meters. We expect we'll be able to retrieve the BQ casing, because even though we encountered expanding clays higher up in the holes, obviously lower down in the hole, we drilled through very solid Proterozoic gabbros. So we believe that the hole is secure. We'll be able to get the probe down to conduct that survey, because what we'll do is we'll pull out the BQ casing and then immediately put the probe down to conduct the next survey.
And do you take readings all the way down, or do you stop at certain levels and turn it on?
All the way down. So basically, as soon as it gets past the HQ casing, the steel casing that's towards the shallower depths of the hole, we take the readings from immediately below the casing all the way to the bottom.
Okay. Good. So some more data to come then. Looking forward.
Well, there is, and I mean, I'd like also to talk a bit, Mark, about this blue shape in the background as well. So we're currently doing some. We're doing some work on we mentioned this in the RNS, we're doing a review of our ground magnetics. Now, at the moment, this model is unconstrained. I'm just going to move on to the next slide. How do I do that? There we are. So this is a different view of the same target areas. Now, this blue in the background, we don't want to hang our hats on this particular shape just yet, but what this is turning into is a new assessment of the ground magnetic data that we've taken. So our own surveys that we ran from surface. And what we're hoping to get out of this, we've asked Spectral to do some work on our behalf. What we're hoping to get out of this is a much more tightly defined view of the Proterozoic itself. Now, if I just jump over to our project in the KCB, in the Kalahari Copper Belt, we put an announcement out last week where we described that we're doing a new ground geophysical survey over Acacia, which is our primary target in that area. So what I want to show sort of shareholders here is the reason that we're doing these ground magnetic surveys is those will hopefully give us a much more clearly defined interpretation of the underlying sort of geological units that we're looking at. So at the moment, we've relied on the airborne surveys to map out the Proterozoic and the center of the magnetics. But by reinterpreting the ground data with the core data that we have and other geophysical data at our disposal, our hope is that this sort of fairly sort of amorphous, shapeless blue body, we're hoping to turn this into a much more tightly defined interpretation of the Proterozoic. We understand sort of the shape of the Proterozoic from a top-down view, its length, its breadth. But what we want to understand much more about is its depths. So we obviously hit the Proterozoic at 650 meters. We've got suggestions that there might be shallower areas which might well also have exploration, or might well become exploration targets in their own right. But the more that we can do to model the Proterozoic at this stage, the better, because what's become clear to us is our focus previously was on the Karoo. So we haven't included any of like the Karoo shape here, because we've purely focused at this stage in this area on the Proterozoic. So this is opening up a bit of a new frontier of exploration for us. The Proterozoic's been known about for a long time. A lot of historic exploration focused on the Proterozoic. Jeremy Brett, who's now been working with us for 6 months, he headed up the geophysical team back in the early 2000s, where the last people to drill in this area. He headed up the geophysics of that unit. And we've been very, very fortunate to bring Jeremy in because he has a lot of knowledge about it. Over the last 2 decades, of course, technology has advanced significantly. Jeremy's sort of up to speed with all of that. So he's really helping guide this overall effort from a strategic point of view, obviously working closely with Hilary, but also with Spectral as well. Spectral's got a lot to add here in terms of their skills and their ability to interpret this data. So I'm hoping that, once this work is complete, we mentioned it in the RNS, as I said, we'll be able to provide shareholders with updated imagery and models for the Proterozoic. But the key difference between what we've done here and what we've previously released on the Karoo is that this will be backed up by the drill data that we have from the hole that we drilled. So the geological data that we have from the core samples, that will help constrain the Proterozoic model that we create. And as a result, we would hope that would give us a greater degree of confidence, just simply because we've got evidence of what's actually down there.
Yeah. So all of these surveys, this data analysis you're doing is all, as I say, bringing the puzzle together and forming refining the model. I noticed a line in the RNS, updating the company's magnetic susceptibility model. Is this what you're describing just now? Exactly what you're doing.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. So this blue at the moment is very unconstrained. You know, we don't want to sort of rely on that. It's just as an illustrative point at this stage, but we're going to look to tighten this up significantly, and this will be the new magnetic susceptibility model that we talked about. That's correct.
Okay.
So what I've done here is I've just moved us on, Mark, to the map of the area and sort of what this means, you know, from a strategic point of view. So obviously our understanding of the KSZ, it evolves with the evidence obviously we gather and further work that we complete, and obviously new, you know, brain power that we bring into the project. But what we're particularly excited about with this target area A is that we drilled this anomaly just here. But what you can see is there's a 30-kilometre long, now we've written about this in previous RNSs, this 30-kilometre long formation that we believe is all the same Proterozoic system. But we're very, very excited about like some more of the work that we can do on this. And what you can clearly see is that based on the data that we've gathered from the existing hole, this is still an early stage sort of map at this point, but these yellow sort of dotted dashed lines that you can see, these are now representing areas of significant interest to us for exploring the Proterozoic. So as you can see, target area A and target area B, those are the areas that we're most interested in. Target area C, from a Proterozoic point of view, is a bit less interesting, but what this map doesn't show is the Karoo. So we still have that target up in target area C. There's still interesting leads for us to pursue in the Karoo, but the fact that we've got these rock samples, highly altered 350 meters of very sort of interesting looking Proterozoic rocks, this is why we're now focusing as much effort and energy as we are on the Proterozoic, just simply because, you know, it's such a large area for us to go for. So this is roughly half of the Hakunzi area. We've got pretty much the rest of the KSZ is all tied up in our names. So, you know, if we can prove this exploration model works, we can prove that the technology can identify viable drill targets, we can then go and successfully drill those targets and then apply the technology to get maximum data leverage out of what's been drilled, then obviously that we're hoping, our expectation is this is where larger firms will really start to take note of what we're doing, and we'll look to partner up with somebody to come in and really sort of help us drive things forward.
Okay. Well, I think you're doing something right, definitely, as you say, with the technology to help you define this resource. Another line from the RNS was you said the AEM accurately predicted the depth of the Gabbro, so you know it's a win there, isn't it?
100%. So it was the magnetics that accurately predicted the depth of the Gabbro, not the AEM. There is a distinction; they are different data sets. You know, easy enough mistake to make. But no, the magnetic data. So it was airborne magnetic data. So it was because you've got airborne electromagnetic and airborne magnetic. It was the airborne magnetic data that helped Hillary. I say helped us. I mean, Hillary really does deserve the credit for this. Mapped the Proterozoic at 650 meters. And that's exactly where we hit it. So it has given us, you know, quite a lot of confidence. What we now want to find are conductive bodies within that Proterozoic Gabbro. If we can find those conductive bodies, you know, exactly the same model as we're still looking at in the Karoo, but you find those within Gabbro, and those are extremely sort of high priority drill targets.
Okay, good. And what about target area B then? How is the drilling going at the moment? Are you on the geological hole at the moment?
We're on the geological hole. We're give or take about 2/3 of the way down. So I think we're getting on for about 700 meters now. So far, so good. You know, we've encountered what we expected towards the top. We haven't found the source of the magnetics yet, but we didn't expect to either. We think that's going to be still a little bit deeper from here. Ground conditions have been a bit on the difficult side. It's 20 kilometers away, as you can see on this map, from target area A. So it's a completely different area. The shallower depths, we've had a few challenges both with water loss and with again some of these looser rock formations that we've been through. But this is part of the reason that we've worked with Mindea. You know, these are a fantastic firm. These guys really do know what they're doing, and in terms of stepping up to the engineering challenge of this, because it is a big engineering challenge, they've really done an excellent job for us. So we'll be providing an update, sort of certainly at target depth. If we hit anything, as good as we hit on the geological hole in target area A, then of course we'll announce that immediately. But at this stage, we're pressing ahead. We haven't found the source of the magnetics. We expect that's still going to be a bit deeper. Target depth is 1,000 meters, and at that point, we then will mobilize slightly further north to go and examine, what's really the big target, which is this 8,200 Siemens conductive body that we found through the TDEM surveys.
Okay. And just on the target area A core, I know last time we spoke, you said the core was going to be cut and then sent to South Africa for the assay results. Has that happened as planned?
Yep. So the core has all been cut. We've hung on to the core wrong turn of phrase. We haven't actually sent the core off to South Africa yet. We've had a bit of delays. There's been some COVID disruption on that, but we're currently selecting which parts of the core to cut. Our new exploration manager, he's not actually in Botswana at the moment. He hasn't been able to make it back to the country, but he's heading back very, very soon. As soon as he does, we'll then obviously send those samples off for lab testing. But we're also getting ready for some site visits as well. So we'll be, welcoming sort of interested parties to come and take a look at what we've done at our Shane office, and so we can see what will come of that.
Okay. Good. Was there anything else to show me, or shall we talk about the shareholder webinar that you want to set up to present some?
Yeah, well, let's talk about the webinar. So obviously we haven't confirmed details of this yet, but our strategy is obviously evolving significantly as we drill these holes and the more we learn about the KSZ. So what we're planning to do is a shareholder webinar, probably on something like Zoom, where we'll get Hilary, Mike, Jeremy, John. We'll have all of our team in that, and we'll do a full presentation of our strategy for exploring the KSZ next year. It's obviously changing quite a lot after all of these developments with the Proterozoic. There's obviously a lot that we're extremely excited about. But what we thought we would do is we're conducting a geophysical review at the moment. So Jeremy Brett is completing that for us. And we're then going to use that as the cornerstone for our strategy as we move into the next year. So there are some things that we've got right, some things that we've got wrong. There are certainly some things that we didn't anticipate or expect. The cause from this second hole were well beyond our expectations so far. We don't want to start talking about mineralization or ore bodies or anything like that. We must remember this is proof of concept, but to have found those altered rocks at this stage is a very encouraging lead. So the idea is that we'll have a full shareholder webinar once the geophysical review is complete, and probably once we've managed to do the downhole EM on both the current hole and the hole that we've just been examining together. And at that point, we'll be able to present our plans, what we've discovered so far, how this has changed our plans, and what we're going to do next year to continue the progress that we've been making.
Okay, well, that sounds good, Ben. Can we expect that before the end of this year?
The goal is definitely before the end of this year. So I'm even hoping within the next month.
Okay, good. Well, a nice way to finish the year off. People get ready for Christmas, and a nice way to sum it up as well, and look forward to the plans for next year. So shareholders can just keep an eye on the company's Twitter feed to see when that gets announced. Is that the best thing? We'll announce
by RNS. I think it's going to be quite a significant event. But yeah, of course, we'll publicise it on the Twitter feed. But no, keep an eye on the RNSs, and I think we'll do a dedicated RNS for this one, because this I think for all of our shareholders, all interested parties, this presentation will be a significant one, and we'll answer a lot of the questions that people have, because there's so much to digest at the moment. I mean, you touched earlier on, we are a data company. We've gathered a huge amount now over recent months, and sort of piecing all of that together and interpreting it and learning the lessons. It really has been a lot of work, and really looking forward to presenting that to everybody.
Okay, well, Ben Turney, the CEO of Kavango Resources, thank you very much for giving us that update today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.